Thanks a bunch, and thank you. Thanks for getting up early, and thanks for giving me 30 minutes of your life. I have prepared a little talk for you today, and I'll get into that in a second. But first, a little bit about me. I'm Rasmus. I work for the Lego Group, probably the most awesome company in the world. We get to play with Lego. That's actually part of our job. But we also need to do really cool products, digital products. And today, I thought I would share a little bit about the insights of the Lego Group and how we are looking at DevOps to scale our company, to scale our digital journey. Many of you probably know the Lego Group. I hope so. Otherwise, let's have a chat in the break. I would love to share more. But only a few knows what's going on, how the company is actually changing in these years. We had a few good years, and we are grateful for that. But how are we spending those good years in preparing for a future that is so unknown as we see in the world today? And I would love to give you a peek into that digital part of the journey. Of course, it's company-wide, but I work in our digital organization. So when preparing this talk, I thought really hard and long about what you would like to know. But none of you replied. So I made up something that I would love to know if I wasn't working at the Lego Group. So I hope you will appreciate this peek into it. Otherwise, I would love to get some feedback. It's one of the first time we are sharing this type of information more publicly. So I hope you can use it also in your journey where you're working and in your daily life. So with that, how about we get ready for play? So there's a risk with having an upbeat video like that in the beginning because it kind of sets expectations to me for the rest of the talk. I'll see if I can tone it down a bit. So why do we do DevOps? Why is DevOps important for the Lego Group? I would like to start there, just focus a bit on why it matters to us. We might not be talking about DevOps day to day, but let's use that context because we are here, right? It is a DevOps Days. Then I made up a word. We don't use it, but the digital operating model. I would like to put that frame and how we use that model to scale what we do, to bring the company forward into this world. So I'll bring you a few examples of what we are building, just to give you a little bit of the context, and then how we are building at scale. So us, we are not in all countries, but we're trying. And we have our products and kits interacting with our products in almost all countries in the world. The Lego Group is growing. We are 24,000 and still growing, and more, I would say the digital organization is growing. Of course, we're insourcing a lot of our innovation work, like any other enterprise these days, but we're also scaling and building more and more. And as you saw in the video, we are really focusing on building these digital locations, or digital hubs we call them, where engineers can come together in this modern world, come together and build awesomeness. So let's get at it. Why DevOps? Well, for us, it's all about business agility. You can invest in business agility in many ways, but digital is probably the one that all modern enterprises are seeking to add and to accelerate their business, right? So agility, yeah, we're used to that when we work in tech. We're used to that when we are around the DevOps world. But really, how does a company in today's world not just add DevOps in pockets? So we used to call them pockets of awesomeness here and there. But how do we take an organization and do full-scale DevOps and remove traditional IT and silo thinking? I think that requires courage. That is really taking it all the way. And today, I'll give you the peek inside the company, at least are giving it a go. We don't have traditional IT anymore. We have DevOps team, product teams throughout. It doesn't really matter if you're managing the data center, building edge side, working on developer experience, or building some of the cool apps we have. Everything are DevOps product teams throughout. So, what does this look like? Well, some of the outcomes that we're seeking, not all of them, but some of them that I would like to highlight today, is how we build in speed. And I think we have had those conversations also yesterday. If we want speed, we need to change how we work. And that's where we use these modern practices. But I think for the Lego Group, if you know a little bit about our history and some of our early days, you will also know that our focus on quality is probably more to the extreme end. We would not compromise quality. Remember, our top consumers are about this high, right? So we don't want to compromise quality in anything we do. And we even have a motto that the best is not too good. And that also flows into how we build digital products. So our focus with business agility is how do we still speed up, retain good quality at scale. Novelty is a word that we use fairly frequent. And novelty is probably a British word, so I'll try to Danishify it. But it means freshness and newness. And it's very important for the Lego brand, and it's a 90-year-old lady. It's very important for the Lego brand to always be fresh, to have fresh products, fresh experiences for our prime audiences. So we need that continuous innovation to happen throughout the business. And if you know our audiences, you also know that increasingly the digital world is taking more and more of the attention. And we are to somewhat in toy industry competing with the digital world for the attention of our audiences. So how do we bring that mix of digital, the freshness, into the experiences you have when you meet our products? And I believe we can do so by continuing to innovate. And how do we innovate? Well, we do a lot of experiments. So I brought with you for you today 2 experiments that are actually live that I would love to share with you. And this is new for us. So back to the courage part, just trying to experiment in the open. So a few weeks ago, we launched something called Build a Minifigure. You all hope you visited our booth and tried the experience of building your own minifigure here at the conference. We have that in all our retail stores as well, Build a Minifigure. You can go in, purchase a 3-pack and build yourself or build your gang as a minifigure. It's a very popular experience, but we experienced during the pandemic that we couldn't have people building their own minifigure in stores. It was simply not safe at that time. But we wanted to bring that experience anyways, and we wanted to bring that experience to everyone, not the one that was just fortunate to have a Lego store where they live. So we launched this online version where you can go and virtually build your minifigure and order it online. And I'll just put in context, think of fulfilling these orders. You actually have to have someone picking it and shipping it to you. But we wanted to see how our market responds to this. So we launched it in a few markets. We put on the site, this is a beta, come try it out if you dare, and you can build an online minifigure. And it's just changing how we interact with our audience, doing experiments on our audiences. And these are digital interactions that we enable. Next up is a different experience that I have personally tested on kids, which is normally frowned upon, but I guess with Lego you can test it on kids. But this is about how we are changing the building experience for our audiences. So if you ever build a Lego set, you know you start with number 1, and then you move to number 2, and now I'm going to shock you, you move to number 3. And then you go all the way to the end of the booklet, right? A few years ago, we launched an instruction app where you can do this on your iPad or your tablet. And last year, we launched for the first time like a kids-focused experience where kids could have more of a smaller builds and rewards during the build, so it was more interactive. You could zoom, you could pivot the model. Back in December, we launched the new one, and this is also an experiment called Build Together. So now you can have multiple tablets on the same build. So you open the set, you open the app, you build together, and then the other apps the iPads are linked together, and then you can have a social experience instead of an individual experience. So you can build as a family, you can build with your kids can build together. You just have to be in the same location. We're still working on how we can do that. But basically, building a different interaction with our products, a social interaction. And again, it's digital experiences that enables a different experience of physical play. So these two experiences are out. We are experimenting on them, on real kids, and we are learning a lot from these interactions. So, how do we achieve business agility? Well, again, back to my made-up word. I was struggling with finding a better one. But what is the operating system beneath all this awesomeness? How do we scale DevOps in a company like the Lego Group? Well, I would say it's simple, but it's not. I would not be fully honest. But we basically have 3 pillars that we're working on. We are product-led, so focusing on the value we deliver. We are architecture-led, so focusing on the building bricks that you build digital products with. And yes, we use the term building bricks when we talk about architecture. And then we're engineering-led, which is all about our people. Great. And I thought I would focus the rest of the talk about what these 3 pillars means. Product-led, architecture-led, engineering-led. So let's focus on the world, product-led. And let's talk about different operating models that we typically see in enterprises. And this is not my study. The source is up there. It's something I stole with pride. But basically, there's 3 operating models that you can look into. If we take it from the left, you have decentralized IT. This one is pretty traditional, where each business unit has their own dev, but you had a shared IT platform that runs. And I know you love DevOps, so you're going to go, but basically, it's a plan, build, run function where business units controls their own budgets. It gives nice agility, but it doesn't scale really, especially not around infrastructure. And then you have a classic IT model, functional IT, where IT does everything. So you do the planning, so they have the budgets, they do the build, so they do the development. Classically, it's outsourced. And then you have an operation that runs everything, and of course is responsible for everything that goes wrong after that. It's a classic waterfall model, lots of handovers, not very effective, not very responsive. And then the one that, well, you bought the ticket, that we love, which is much more around having stream-aligned or business-aligned product teams and product groups that gets their requirements from business counterparts and deliver those in smaller increments, but are full stack DevOps, which basically is around they build, they have the budget, right? They plan, they build, they run. And they do that in increments all the time. You might have shared infrastructure, that's fine, as long as you have that cloud-like multi-tenancy provided, you can still have this agility. We are, of course, towards the right for everything we do. What I see when I talk with peers in industries is that it's a mix of the models. So you have part of business is running agile, a stream-aligned team, and a classic IT still runs a lot of the classic systems like ERP and HR. Great. So let's talk about being product-led. This means we have product teams. Product teams, well, they have engineers building awesome software, are led by an engineering manager, a lead engineer, which is a technical lead that looks a bit beyond sprints. They can look into following current quarter and also the following quarters. And then we have product managers in most of our organization. So product managers are often placed on the business side, so they're part of a different organization unit, but is directly attached and owns the product and owns the outcome, of course also owns the investment. This is I don't think this is anything new. This is a classic model. But that comprises the product teams, the product manager, the product team itself. Within our organization, again, all the engineers are in technology. Product managers are often outside the technology organization, but can also be within. A product also has OKRs, or objectives, key results, which is where we talk about the value, the target audiences, and also our confidence in delivering this actual value. So that's also always around the current quarter. So right now, all our OKRs is about Q2 2022, and that's where the product team are working on. This is very high level, right? This is outcome in the OKRs. The product team is then fully empowered to deliver how we do it. But the outcome is defined and agreed with our external stakeholders, our user groups, right? So within the OKR, the product team defines how to deliver the value agreed. And then a product also has a vision. So what is our dream in a couple of years? What's the awesomeness nirvana we're going to be at in a couple of years? And we try to articulate that in a roadmap, and we have many discussions around what does a roadmap mean, because honestly, we know what we're doing now, we hope. We guess what we're going to do next quarter. And beyond that, I think it's all hope and dreams, right? Do you really know what you're going to do Q1 next year? You have hopes, right? You can have an indication. But roadmaps are really, really good at having discussions with your user groups, with your consumers, because they can still influence, and it's not agreed that this is the value outcome. And then our user groups. And here we have defined 4 user groups that we primarily focus on. First of all, it's our consumers. Our consumers are the ones using our products. Again, they can be this tall, they can be this tall. It doesn't matter. But it's the actual consumers, the one using the apps I showed before, with building together. And then we have shoppers, the people that shop with us. Okay? That was the builder minifigure. That's the user group there. Those are the ones that actually has cash to pay for our product. Because if you're high, you might not have a budget to buy a Millennium Falcon or something like that. Partners are the one that we work together to read audiences. So you can also buy our products with, we have a selling group here, which has toy stores throughout the country. And then, of course, we have our colleagues, which are all the LEGO Group employees. These are our audiences, and we always know when we are targeting each of them. Great. And this is, in essence, what we mean with being product-led. Now, let's get into it. Let's talk about being architecture-led. And finally, I'm going to talk about some tech. Being architecture-led for us is around not telling our product teams, our engineers, how to do their job, but giving them the backing, the reference framework on how we build at the LEGO Group. Because what we want to achieve here is also an agile product set. So not each product is a complete startup on its own, but we actually are building a loosely coupled but tightly aligned overarching architecture. So imagine if each product would just go totally startup and do their own thing in their own way, it would be really hard to integrate across products. And that's not what we're trying to do here. But in essence, each product team are empowered to do so. So our architecture pillars, I think the first one is fairly obvious. We want to get rid of technical debt. If you're 90 years old, you have some. I think even if you're 12 months old, you have plenty. But that's just something that haunts us forever. But in the essence here, if we want a loosely coupled architecture where we still have benefits, we need to drive API adoption, we need to drive cloud adoption. And we'd love to focus on that. But before I do so, it's also about data. How can we become increasingly data-driven in what we do? If you're 90 years old, you have a lot of data that you can put to good use also in the future. And for that, we need to build a data platform that we can use throughout. And then it's about increasing system instrumentation. Simply, when you have a decoupled architecture, how can we remain aware of what goes on in other products? But one of my favorite topics, cloud at the LEGO Group. If you know me from previous talk, you know I love to talk about cloud. And we have some cloud principles that we work to achieve this architecture. So first of all, cloud first. Cloud is where we build. Yes, we have a data center, but that's not where we build new stuff. Everything new goes into the cloud. And then we don't just use cloud as we would use a data center. First of all, we shouldn't be building and hosting other people's software. We shouldn't be building what we can buy, right? So who would go and build their own HR system or CRM system? But even though who would go and buy an HR system and host it in their own infrastructure, unless, of course, there's legal requirements to do so. So we always pursue using software as a service first for everything that is non-differentiating. That's super important. We don't want to be hosting other people's software. It's as easy as that. And then we would rather use platform capabilities, Kubernetes, serverless functions, database as a service, over traditional virtual machines. And we actually have, I wouldn't say denied virtual machines, but as close as you can without telling anyone how to do their job. Virtual machines are not where we want to go. Because when you build in cloud, they are just expensive, they're cumbersome to manage, and they don't really do anything good for you, except they're really good at hosting other people's software, which is back to point 1. Multi-cloud, we have moved from being de facto multi-cloud, which I guess most of us are. Who are using more than one cloud provider? Please raise your hand. Okay, I refuse to believe that. There was only like 15 hands. I think we all are multi-cloud de facto, because either we merge with another company that has a different provider, or we bought a service that's only hosted in a specific provider. But I think we really need to move into strategically multi-cloud to give our engineers the palette of building blocks that they can use to build really effective, really scalable solutions. And just having that mix of offerings out there. In our case, well, we operate in China. That forces us into having hosting options in China, in mainland China, to comply with local legislation. So that's one cloud provider. We are really good. We want to be really good at e-commerce, so we partner with AWS. But we also want to invest a lot in IoT, and Microsoft Azure is really strong at that. So instead of using a single string provider, we accept that that's a thing of the past for us. We want to use strategically to interact with the providers that can give us a business benefit. And then we want to actively move away from a classic data center setup, but we also are a manufacturing company. We won't really get away from producing physical stuff anytime soon. So we need, of course, to give a cloud-like experience for all our manufacturing sites. There's so much desire to innovate in manufacturing that it's actually us in technology that's holding them back. And we really need to step up that game and deliver edge compute in a scalable, agile manner so we can keep up with business demand. And then we promote what's called an isolated architecture, which is around stop using the corporate network, exclamation mark, right? That is just a bad architecture pattern, because it means that you're doing integrations over private network, and often you're doing classical layer 2 based integrations. We need to build an internet-first architecture here if we want to be really loosely coupled. And a way to have a good architecture here is just removing the ability to do network-based integrations. You can still have private networks, that's fine. Just don't tie them together, please. And that leads me to the next point is, how do we then do integrations if we're not allowed to do it over the network? Well, I hope it's no surprise. It's APIs. And I didn't intend to rhyme. Let me just phrase that or clear that out already. So APIs at the Lego Group is the magic that's going to tie everything together. So APIs are nothing new for us, but if you want to have this, again, scalable, decoupled product landscape, APIs are what enables us to integrate between our products. So again, we were cloud first, so we're going to be API first. Any integration needs to be enabled by API. They are specification and contract based, meaning that you need to publicly make available this specification through some standards that are out there, not some we invented, but some specifications that needs to be in place. And then they need to be contract based. So what is your SLA? What is your recovery time? What can we depend on you? Can we call you after midnight and expect that you pick up the phone? So contract-based, specification-based. They need to be globally available. So we operate all over the world. Yes, we pivot technology here in Europe, but we do operate in many countries around the world. So we need to make sure that you can reach the APIs from anywhere. So we're not forced back to building those corporate network connectivity. And then they need to be designed for public consumption. Again, if we want to decouple, not use network-based integration, we need them out there. And we need them secured, of course. So this is often where you can have opinions in your organization, and where the classic building model where everything is on the corporate network inside the firewall often meets resistance when you propose this. And then they need to be discoverable. And this is more difficult than you might think. So making sure you build that API discoverable. So a library, you could say, or librarian that can help others find your API so you expose it. And just making sure that it's easy to consume. And actually, it's not a model that we have invented. It's very inspired by Amazon and how they built their decoupled organization, their decoupled products, where a very famous quote from Jeff Bezos talks about how every product must be consumable via APIs. So cloud first, API first, make sure you have some good contracts, and then you can really scale your architecture to support DevOps throughout. And then my last point is around being engineering-led. And this is really about the people in the organization. So our DevOps team, again, are empowered, but they are also responsible for the full stack. Yes, we have platforms. We have SAP platforms, mobile platforms, Kubernetes platforms. So we can take away some of the infrastructure operations, but still, from there, product teams cannot hand over the responsibility of their products to someone else. We love to learn. We spend a lot of time on learning through play and just making sure that we have that continuous journey with everyone in our engineering organization. And then our people are empowered. We don't tell people how to build. We give building blocks, yes. We give frameworks, yes. But at the end of the day, when you have an empowered team, you need to let them innovate. And it's all backed by an awesome career model, so you don't have to be managerial like me to become a director. We have career path that goes all the way up to principal engineer, which is my peers in the organization, so that we don't have to have people forced into managerial, ruin their careers like me, but can actually excel in tech, excel in the engineering disciplines, and work throughout. So with that, I'm actually through it. I don't know if we have time for questions.
Yes, we can just have one question. So do we have anyone with a burning question? No? Yep, over there. We'll just have a mic.
How did it go with the web shop, build your own minifigure? Do you sell a lot of them?
We sold too many. So we have shut down the service again because we cannot keep up with demand. So right now it's closed again. It still has the page up there, but it says conveniently that we are taking a break and taking learnings. But it was a massive success. We might have priced them a little bit too low, because I also saw some pictures on the internet of people that had like huge bags that they ordered through this service. But yeah, it was a massive success, I think. That's what I hear. But we need to figure out how to scale this service. Our products are very sought after right now. So fulfilling is also the physical part of the interaction. It's really annoying, but you actually have to have the products. Great question, by the way. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening in. I hope it was useful.